Hi, this is Jim Gibson. Thank you for joining me today on my channel. Really appreciate it. And today, today I am in Oceanside, California, the gem, in my opinion, of San Diego County. And of course, San Diego County, in my opinion, is the gem of California. But it's a cold day in February. It's unusual. And as you notice, there's no one on the beach sunning or anything else. So it's the middle of February in 2023, and it's just a cold day. A couple days ago it was 75 degrees. Today it's in the 50s, maybe even lower than that. I don't know. But I want to talk to you about short-term rentals, known as, some of the companies involved in that is Airbnb and Vacasa and things like that. Now, I have personal experience in that. We had an investment property, still have that investment property, but we had short-term rentals in that investment property, and some of the ups and downs we're going to talk about today as I do a little bit of walk through Oceanside, California, along the Strand. I walk this Strand often because I'm only about 4 blocks from here, and that's the house I use for our short-term rentals. Really nice house. And so we're going to talk about that today, and I hope that you can make a decision based on some of the good things and some of the bad things, my experience in doing short-term rentals. So let's get walking here. So, you look around, just about most of these places here at this end of the Strand, the northern end of the Strand, is probably short-term rentals. I don't think very few people live right here on what's known as the Strand. And, there's a lot of houses like this house right here. These houses, a group of houses, have been here since the 40s, but they're really kept nice. And usually there's people out front. Oh, there's one person I could talk to, but usually there's people out front in here, and it's a very small house, probably about 600 square feet. There's some houses in the back look the same way. They're all painted the same way. The roofs look the same way. Everything looks the same way, except for maybe the doors. But real nice rental property right here on the beach. Look at that beautiful beach right here on the beach. And I'm sure it's very profitable. Now, some of the things that I have learned. Now, my house is 4 blocks up that hill. As you can see in the back of these, there's buildings up there. That's 1 block. Mine is about 3 blocks past those. And my experience in a lot of ways were good, and a lot of ways were bad. And at the end of the video, I will discuss whether or not I would redo it and the reasons why. And I'm going to have some conditions and things that I would have changed if I was starting over again. So some of the good parts and some of the bad parts. Let's get going here. Let me get to a solid place on the beach here so I'm not shaking the camera like crazy. This has been a rough winter for Oceanside. There's no major damages, but the beach really got eroded. Now, the nice thing about Oceanside is they're going to come in here with a bunch of new sand, pipe it up from the ocean, and lay it down, and the sand will look fantastic. Again, this is a great place to live. This is fantastic place to live, except for taxes, except for some of the other things. We don't have the homeless problem here in Oceanside like some of the other cities have, and it's probably because they really police the area and really take care of that. So it's a nice place. It is truly the best city in California, in my opinion. It's just beautiful. It's nice, family-oriented, stuff like that. Anyway, my house. So I did Vacasa, and I also had a local organization that set up my house for that short-term rentals, and it worked really well for us for a while. And there's some drawbacks too. So So some of the things you have to consider when it comes to Airbnbs type of setup, short-term rentals, is, first of all, if you're thinking of doing this as an investment, you should go into it with your eyes open. And so I'm going to talk about some negative things, and then I'm going to talk about some positive things. So first of all, we set up our house. There was a 3-story house, a little over 3,000 square foot, 5-bedroom house, 4 blocks from the beach. And so first thing that happens is when you do these things, you have to furnish that house. And to put in brand new furnishings and 5 new TVs and connect them all together and give them internet access and give them table and stuff like that. You got to do that to set up what you plan to do and to provide, some, niceness to people who are going to be there. It's sort of like a hotel. In fact, I used to go to hotels and I would I would joke with my wife that they have some of the pictures that are actually bolted to the wall. They're attached to the wall, and I could never figure out why. Now, after 5 years of being with a Airbnb, Vacasa type of thing, short-term rentals, now I know why. Yes, people take pictures that you have on the wall and trinkets that you put around, and they disappear. But anyway, the house has to be prepared. So the first thing you have to do in something like this is that you have to make sure it's completely furnished. You got to have beds and everything else, and you got to have things like that, and you got to have TVs, you got to have pots and pans, you have to have silverware, you have to have your spatulas, the remotes. People have to understand which remote is for what. And so, we had VCRs and we also had TVs, so you had to label each of those things. You not only had to label each of those things, you got to label the stuff in the kitchen. Again, this is a fully furnished house. You got to think that through. That's very expensive to fully furnish a house with furniture, and it's not IKEA type of stuff. You got to have some decent furniture there, and then the beds have to be comfortable. But the labeling, you got to label a lot of things. Like one point in my house, I have 5 switches in one hallway that lights different lights. Well, the people came in from the short-term rental company, and they spent about a day and a half labeling every single switch in the house, and then they had to label each shelf in the kitchen where things go. The bowls go here, the plates go here, the deep fryer goes here, just things like that. Everything has to be labeled, and it's good that it's labeled because then you can go through the house after someone leaves and you can see what's missing. And sometimes things are missing, and of course you just charge back to the group that was there. So it's far from completely passive, and you have to either have a good management company that goes through and keep track of these things, or you have to be the person to back them up. So that's one thing. Now, as far as when my wife and I decided that we were going to do this, we were listening to other people whose homes were very close to the beach, and they had almost 80+% of the time where their house was reserved for them, for someone else. I'm sorry. About 80% of the time the house was in use. Now, for me, that was not the case. So January, February, if I got one listing for a weekend, that was a good weekend. And that was a good month sometimes. You just do not get a lot of people signing up. Every single. It's not packed. It's especially in the winter. Not a lot of people want to hang out at the beach in the middle of February. You can see there's not a lot of people here. Now during the summer, this place is packed. I mean, it's hard to walk down the sidewalk during the summer. There's so many people walking by, and you slow down, and people are passing you, and you got to get out of the way, dogs and stuff like that. But during the winter, I would say up to March, April time frame, you do not get a lot of people reserving spots at your house. Now, I've heard other vloggers say, well, I had a really good time and I made millions of dollars and stuff like that. Not my case. I did not make a ton of money, and I'll talk to you at the end to tell you, some of the things that happened and some of the reasons why I will or will not do it again. So, you got a lot of things like that. You got to prep the house. The house has to be prepped, and it has to be, people could walk in and feel comfortable from day one. It has to be clean. So that means you got a cleaner. Someone has to come in and clean. House keeping has to come in, and you got to pay that company or that group of people who come in and wash all the linen and stuff like that. And remember, you got to provide all this stuff too. So it's not just it's not just beds and stuff like that. You got to provide the linen and the blankets and the towels and also the the toys that the kids use for the beach. And you got to remember, this is a beach-oriented house. So, it has to be prepared for that purpose. So, isn't this beautiful? I mean, look at this. Sun's coming out. Sun hasn't been out much today. It's an unusual day. Usually it's always sunny. And during the summer, man, you don't even see clouds. I heard people say things like, I heard people say things like, California has a drought, hasn't rained in 6 months. Well, once you hit probably the end of March, it stops raining. That's our rainy season. And once you get past that rainy season, then it's pretty, it's dry. It's rare that you have a rainstorm after March and before December, but it happens rarely, but it does happen. So it's not really a drought. It's just the conditions, the way the weather is and everything else. It happens every year pretty much the same way, and that's why people love this place. It's because you don't, it's always predictable during the summer. It's always warm. It's not super hot. It may get up into the 90s, but really super low humidity. So it's really nice like that. So it is a draw for people. Now, there's other beaches along the coast that people go to, but I really feel Oceanside's the best. And one of the reasons why I feel Oceanside's the best is because it's a quiet little town that you can get a lot of entertainment and stuff like that, but it's still a quiet little town. So once you decide to buy that house, where is it located? Now, if it's closer to the beach, you're going to be able to keep it full a lot easier than my house, which was 4 blocks from the beach. Easily walked to the beach, but if people are going to live across the street from the beach, then that's fantastic, and it makes it even better for them. So it's location, location, location. It always is. And I hear people sometimes say, well, I'm going to put my house up for short-term rentals with this company or that company. Well, you need to check out which company charges you the least in commissions, because they take from the top, they take anywhere from 15 to 30% of the income. So someone signs up, they pay with credit card. You got to find out, what type of background check they do on people. Make sure that they're not, they're actually using the credit card that they own. or else you make nothing. So you have all the risk. The company does not have that risk. You take care of all the risk. Right here they're just doing some maintenance on utilities. You can see the green fence there, and that will be gone by summer. But they do maintain the area a lot here in Oceanside. But anyway, you had to cover the risk. If someone shows up and you find out later that the credit card was not acceptable or it was fraud, then you don't make any money. It's not the company. The company doesn't make any money either, but everyone loses on something like that. And then, of course, if they're crazy and they get into your house, they really cause a lot of damage, or they could cause a lot of damage. I remember once I got a call, emergency call, pipe broke in the house. So I quickly got over to the house because I was only a mile away. And when I got there, water's pouring down out of the ceiling. And I said to the renters, the temporary renters, I said, do you mind if I go upstairs and find out what's going on? Because it looks like it's in the bathroom area. Looks like it's in the bathroom area, and I'll check it out. So I went upstairs, and by then their son was getting a shower, but he was done, and the door was open, and there was about an inch of water on the floor. The young man didn't know to put the shower curtain inside the tub. So there was no broken pipe. It was someone who didn't know how to get a shower in the... I'm sorry, I'm being distracted. Someone didn't know how to get a shower. So that caused a lot of damage to the ceiling. And yet the parents just sat there and looking at the water coming down. And when I went downstairs and asked, I said, how long was your son getting a shower for? And they said, oh, I don't know, half hour or more. The water was pouring out of the light fixtures, and they didn't even turn out the light. So that was something that they did, and they didn't think there was anything wrong with that. So you see things like that. What's some of the other things? 5 bedrooms, so it's supposed to handle about 10 people, because each bedroom had a double bed in it. So about 10 people at max. And one of the neighbors called me and told me that there's hordes of individuals at my house. And I found out later there was about 20-25 people, and they were sleeping on the floor, they were sleeping everywhere else. The house gets a lot of wear and tear on that type of situation. So when I showed up after they left, I walked down one of the hallways, and there was diapers, there was dogs. They weren't supposed to bring dogs. There was a lot of smoke. You're not allowed to smoke in the house, things like that, and that had to be addressed. That took a lot of money. We had to completely have a professional cleaning crew in there that did everything they possibly could to clean up the house and to make it look better. And they had to deep clean the couches and the beds and stuff like that, and it was off the market for about a week. So there was a lot of issues there with that, and I'm being distracted, sorry. So I don't know how long this bird is going to stay here while I talk, because he's a little nervous about me standing next to him. He's about 3 foot away from me. But, let's get back to the house and some of the disasters. So, the cost. Well, a percentage goes to your management company. They get the people there, they do the background checks, they accept credit cards or any other type of payment, and they make sure that proper deposits are made and everything else. So they know exactly what they're looking for, and they're pretty good. I was with 2 organizations. Viasa wasn't too bad, but I was with a local one that closed, but they did a really good job while they were open. So 20% is going to go there. Now, if you got a mortgage, you got to pay the mortgage. You got insurance, and the insurance is going to be considerably higher if it's a short-term rental. So you need to get with your insurance company and find out where in the world that what it's going to cost you in insurance. And it may be significant enough that you don't want to do it if you add up all the costs. And I talked about the furniture and the plates and the pots and the pans, and it has to be a full house. People have to cook there, have to live there, have to shower there, have to clean up and stuff like that. Next is house cleaning. Every time someone leaves, all the sheets have to be taken up, washed, dried, and put back on the beds. The floor needs to be vacuumed. The bathrooms need to be cleaned. The kitchen needs to be cleaned. Everything needs to be put away. Everything needs to be spotless, and that takes hours. And you got to pay someone to do that. So that's one of the costs. And then, of course, you got taxes. Taxes and license. You still have to pay tax on this. And in Oceanside, you had to have a short-term occupancy license. Now, when I did it 5 years ago, I stopped doing it, but I did it for about 5 or 6 years, and I did not have to have a license. But I imagine with all the new hotels that are coming into Oceanside, you can see them up there, with all those rooms and everything else, they probably argued that it's not fair that other people aren't paying occupancy tax. So there's taxes. You got to do your research. You got to do your homework. Okay? And then, of course, everything else, you got wear and tear on the house. So you're going to put some money away to do repairs. And also, you got to do your accounting. You got to keep track of all this stuff. You got to keep track of all the purchases and all the payments and everything else. So it's just not get a house, make tons of money. It's far from that. I did not make a lot of money when I did it for 5 years. So let's get into what would I do if I had the chance to do it again, which I do. I have a chance. I'm actually living in that house now. Beautiful home. I mean, it is fantastic. The nicest home I ever lived in, to be honest with you. But we bought it for an investment purposes, and it didn't cost me money at the end, but it really didn't make that much, and it was a lot of work. So when you deal with these type of properties, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to be available. It's not passive. It's not anywhere near as passive as long-term rentals, like renting to families for a year. They bring their own furniture. They take care of all these things. They pay their own utilities. I forgot to say that too. Utilities, and expect the utilities to be a lot higher on Airbnbs. People leave the air conditioner on forever, things like that. They got a lot going on this pier. I don't know what's going on behind me here. They're doing some construction work on the pier, upgrading portions of the pier. They always do a lot of nice work here at Oceanside. Beautiful place. The positive. Positive is people are actually paying your mortgage. And so that is fantastic. And you get to deduct the interest rates. The next is when you buy this furniture and you buy everything else, I would recommend that you have an LLC, no matter where you do it. And that you run it through your LLC and it becomes pre-tax dollars. So when you buy that couch at $3,000, it's not after taxes, it's pre-tax. So that's a considerable savings. When you do upgrades to the house, it's an investment property, it's all pre-tax. All this income is pre-tax. So that is fantastic. And you know something else too, really a great thing that my wife and all took advantage. I think it's 2 weeks a year in California that you can actually use the building itself as a personal thing. Now, if you got to paint the inside, and it takes 3 weeks to paint the inside, well, then you can stay there while you paint. So you paint 4 hours in the morning, and you go out and surf on the beach later on that day. Again, it's a beautiful house, very unique house, 3 stories. Man, it has views like unbelievable. It has different levels of porches that you can hang out on and enjoy the sun and the weather and all. So you get to use it yourself, and my wife and I, especially when it wasn't scheduled for someone else to use it, I would have a list of things I wanted to do at the house, and I would live there for a couple days. Now, would I do it again? Or what would I do differently? Then I'll tell you whether or not I'd do it again. So I had cable, and it was extensive cable. It was HBO, it was Cinemax, it was everybody, and it was really, really pricey, and I don't think it's necessary today. You do have to have internet and let people know what the internet access is and what the password is, things like that. And so that's important. Now, if I do it again, and I've already done this, but I would make sure you had cameras on the outside, not on the inside. Because if you rent it out to, let's say, 3 couples, you got to make sure it's 3 couples and not 30 couples. I've had that. They tore apart the house, cost lots of money, had to go to court for the repairs, and and I think I already told you about this, the extensive cleaning that had to take place. If I had to do it again, my house is probably not the most ideal. It's too far from the beach. My wife says 3 blocks, I say 4 blocks. And there's most people around me do not use their house as an Airbnb, but what they do is they use their house to live in full time. So there's a lot of people living in their houses full time, and it's they enjoy it. They've been around for a long time, but the house is not where it should be for the best profits. Oh, there is a destroyer. I think it's a Navy destroyer. Right down the street is Camp Pendleton. So that's another feed. Parents come to see their kid at Marine Corps Base Camp Pendleton, and they need a place to stay for a couple of days or a week, and this is a great vacation place. So now the question is, would I do it again? And it would be maybe, if I needed to and I needed the income and I wasn't using the house, because we moved in over COVID. We took it off an investment property list and we moved it in as a personal property under COVID, and we haven't left yet. It's kind of interesting. I caught COVID about a month ago, and I was sick for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then I was pretty much okay after that. But to make a long story short, I keep on saying that, but anyway, make a long story short, would I do it again? Yeah, if I wasn't going to live in the house and I didn't want it to sit empty, I may look at long-term rentals like a year lease or a 6-month lease or something like that, rather than short-term. That would work really well. But I would do things a lot differently, as I already explained. Now, you waited all the way to the end, and in discussing all these things, I want to ask you one question. Did you subscribe? Because I'm going to be talking about real estate and business and finance and stuff like that all throughout the channel. So if you want to be able to get ahead in life with finances, and I can tell you how I did it, and I can tell you about my mistakes, many more mistakes that I made. Even in this Airbnb, there was a lot of mistakes that I made. But if you want to get the latest and the greatest, you got to subscribe and hit the bell. But also, give me a thumbs up. I'm trying to get this channel so we can make some money on the channel also, because I spent about 2 days on this video. This is the second day. If you notice, when I first started, the sky was a lot different and the weather was a lot different. That was yesterday, 2 days ago. So thank you for watching. Very much appreciate it. I'll catch you on the next video.